y'all had a wonderful lunch. We're going to continue on the testimony. Ma'am, you're still under oath. Ms. Menashe.
Thank you, Diane Menashe, on behalf of Dr. William Husel. Just want to go back and talk about what you do for a living. You are not a nurse, is that correct?
Correct.
You do not have a nursing license, correct?
Correct.
And the same was true in 2018.
Correct.
As such, you don't issue medications, right? You don't place medication orders,
I administer medications.
right? Different administering and placing an order are two different things,
I don't
correct?
place an order.
You don't place an order. And you've never, in your role as a certified medical assistant, you've never worked in an ICU, is that correct?
Correct.
So now let's turn to the history of Mr. Allison. And when I say the history, I mean the medical history. In July of 18, he was living with your mother.
Correct.
Were you living in that household?
No, I was not.
How often were you visiting that house before and around 2018?
As often as one visits their parents.
Well, that's true for different people, wouldn't you agree? Some people visit their parents a lot, some people don't visit their parents at all.
Moderately.
Okay. What's moderate to you?
I would speak with them on the phone and visit the house, I don't know, maybe a few times a month.
And so if that's how many times you would call or visit, how many times would you see Mr. Allison on average a month between the year 2017 to 2018?
On average.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't know?
You want me to put a number on how many times I saw somebody 4 years ago?
Well, all
Okay,
of that.
this is a rhetorical question again.
On average.
If you know. If you don't know.
I don't know.
Okay. You would agree with me, would you not, that all the things that you have just testified to on your direct all took place 4 years ago?
Yes, in 3 hours.
So I want to talk to you then based on the calls and the visits you had with your stepfather. You are aware, are you not, of the wound that he had on his right leg?
Correct.
And the wound was so significant, was it not, that it caused him multiple hospitalizations for years before his death in 2018, correct?
I don't know.
He went to the hospital in February of 2016 for the wound. Are you aware of that?
Not 16, no.
Are you aware that in September of 2017, the wound, again, was causing sepsis issues, and he went to the hospital? Are you aware of that?
Yes.
And then in June of 2018, so 1 month prior to this final step, he had sepsis, went to Mount Carmel West again, did he not, because of this wound?
In June.
In June.
Correct.
1 month prior.
Yes, in June, correct.
And you're aware, well, let's talk about the wound. Fair to say, based on your seeing him and conversing with him and knowing the knowledge that you know, it wouldn't heal.
I mean, yes and no.
Well,
Did it fully heal? No. Did it get better? Yes.
it continued to be a significant problem for Mr. Allison, did it not?
On and off, yes.
And it continued, as he reported to medical staff, to cause him an incredible amount of pain, did it not?
I don't know what he said to medical staff.
Did you observe him having a lot of pain?
Well, I wasn't there at that June visit.
Did you just know that he was at a June visit for his wound
Correct.
that had caused sepsis?
Correct, but I wasn't there.
And sepsis, as you know, is an infection, is it not?
Correct.
That can be quite aggressive. Correct?
But he went home in June.
That's not my question. You know what, it's my fault. I'm gonna ask questions that yes or no, and then hopefully I'll be more clear with my questions. In June, when he's at the hospital, he's there for the injury to the wound. Are you aware that when he was discharged, he was given morphine to take as a result of the pain that he was experiencing?
Yes.
Are you aware that he was told to take the morphine 3 times a day at 30 30 milligrams in each dose because the pain was of significance?
No.
Are you aware that in prior visits, he had expressed that he just couldn't do it anymore with respect to the pain in the lower?
No.
And so then, let's turn to the July 2018 visit to Mount Carmel West. He arrives at the hospital in an ambulance, does he not?
Correct.
And you aren't in the ambulance in that transport?
No.
You were not at the house when your mother called the ambulance, correct?
No.
You weren't even there earlier that morning?
No.
Or earlier, or the day prior?
No.
So he's taken to Mount Carmel West, and then your testimony was that you received a text message from your mother letting you know that he was in the hospital. Do you remember that testimony?
That she was taking him to the hospital, yes. Or that he was going to the hospital. She told me she called the squad.
Okay, because the ambulance took him to the hospital.
Yes.
Correct? And, which reminds me, you were shown this picture. What is the picture? Yes, I put it away. You were shown a picture. And I know we there was some joking that it was his driver's license photo.
Yes.
And I thought you said he was thinner than he appears in that photo.
Around that face, he had like all that scruff there, yeah. It made his chin look a little bigger.
Would it surprise you to know that in his admission to Mount Carmel West on July of 2018, he measured at 5 feet 8 and 312.8 pounds? That surprised you to know?
No.
Because that was his height and weight, was it not?
Okay, yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
So going back to the July 2018, you get a text message from your mother, ambulance takes him there, and then your testimony was that you got another text message from your mother that a chaplain had been by to talk to her. Do you remember saying that?
Mm-hmm.
And you've given interviews, not sworn statements, but interviews about this case before, have you not?
Correct.
You gave an interview to CNN?
I did not.
But you didn't.
No, my mother did.
Did you give an interview to film crews?
Yes.
Okay. That it was serious?
In my mind, it felt like it was serious. From my knowledge, yes.
Because from your knowledge, you know the chaplain doesn't just come by and talk randomly to people, right?
Correct.
So it's with that understanding that it's serious that you then go to Mount Carmel West. Is that correct?
Correct.
So let's talk about when you get there. How do you know which floor Mr. Allison was on when you arrived?
He was in the emergency department.
And question though is, how did you know that?
My mom told me he was in the emergency department.
And if you recall, what floor was that?
It's just right there in the entrance, the first floor.
So, and here's why I'm asking this. You came into the hospital and you walk in, and that's the floor where Mr. Allison was at that point in time.
Correct.
Which is not the ICU.
Correct.
You then talked about when you walked in, there was a code going on. Do you remember that testimony?
Yeah, I mean, you skipped, but yes.
Okay. When you walked in, did you get to code?
When I walked in, I first addressed my mother in the small waiting area where the chaplain was, and then we walked into the actual emergency department, and it looked like there was a code.
Okay. So what I missed is the step where you stopped by your mother, who was also accompanied by a chaplain at that point?
Correct.
And the chaplain was sitting?
She was standing.
And was your mother standing or seated?
Standing.
And so they were together there in the waiting room?
Yes.
And then you pause, you talk to your mother chaplain, and it's then that you go into the back, and that is when you indicate that you saw that there was a code going on.
Correct.
I'm assuming that you subsequently learned that that code was actually the fourth or fifth of
Third.
the code, the third code. So you walked in when he's having the third code.
It was a continuous code that lasted about 20-some minutes, but it was within 3 episodes.
Okay, so let's break it down because I know that you're a certified medical assistant, and so being precise is really important, right?
Sure.
And you know that a code blue is when the, literally, right? Code blue, someone's actively dying, right? That's what a code situation is, correct?
Yeah, someone stopped breathing or their heart stopped.
Someone stopped breathing. Code hits, and then either, there's only 2 outcomes in a code. Would you agree with me? They either are resuscitated or they die.
Correct.
Your stepfather was in a code when he came to Mount Carmel, code resuscitated, correct?
He coded in the emergency department.
Right. Yes, in the emergency department. Code 1, resuscitated 1, correct?
No.
So, and I know it's difficult for you to be here, but you just testified to this jury that you walked in and it was the third code. So, which means, just common sense, before 3 comes 2 and 1, correct?
It was a continuous.
Well, you would agree with me that you weren't there during the continuous because you just testified you walked in on the third.
When I asked the attending how long it had been going on, he addressed me and stated that it was 27 minutes, but that it was a continuous. Like it wasn't a singular.
Okay, so, you know what, did you ask in your desire to know everything about this case, did you ask to review Mr. Allison's medical records from 2016?
I wouldn't ever be able to know everything, but I did.
Did you review those records from 2016?
Yes.
You
No,
did?
2018. I'm sorry.
So you reviewed the medical records from 2018 from his last visit in July or also from the June visit?
The visit I was present for.
So you reviewed those medical records? Is that
Yes.
correct? And then you would have reviewed the discharge summary, is that correct?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as Joint Exhibit 9. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Looks like, does it not, Troy Allison discharge summary?
Correct.
Okay. Want to just go back to then, I'm assuming it was important for you to review the emergency urgent care section of his record, correct?
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, that I was present for, yes.
And then it talks about up here, does it not, the patient does have ACE wraps around both of his lower extremities. Do you see that?
Yes, in reference to the wound.
Yes. And then it notes the patient's hygiene is very poor. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then let's talk about this medical and decision-making section based on your testimony about the codes. If we could, indicates right here, does it not, that at the time of the arrival to the emergency room, his AccuCheck was done and it was read as high, correct? And then he started to seize. Do you see that?
Yes.
And you know, based from your common sense and experience professionally, that seizures can cause brain damage, do they not?
Yes.
Then he had, the note indicates a full body seizure, which lasted for 1 to 2 minutes. Did you review this note as well?
I read the whole note.
Okay. So then it goes on to talk about given IV fluids, right? Mm-hmm. And I walked away for just a few minutes and was called back to see the patient, at which time the patient stopped breathing. Do you see that?
Correct.
So that's code 1, right?
It's respiratory arrest, yes.
And then he stopped breathing.
Yeah.
Okay. CPR was begun and preparation was done to intubate the patient. Do you see that?
Yes.
Patient was intubated with me, difficulty breathing. It was noted that the patient had coffee ground material in the back of his throat, so they suctioned that out. You remember reading this note, correct?
Yes.
All right, and then it goes down to say CPR was continued on the patient after he was intubated and was given epinephrine plus sodium bicarbonate. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and you recognize from your experience that epinephrine, he's given vasopressors because his heart's shutting down, right? His respiratory system is failing.
Yes.
The patient did not have a return of pulse
Right, so it's still the same code.
for a brief period of time. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, but then his pulse started to diminish. We could not appreciate a palpable pulse. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then it goes on to say we continued to have these episodes where the patient would regain his pulses, so he would be alive, and then he would lose them. He would be actively dying. Do you see that? Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. This is the medical note about what happened in that ER room with respect to Mr. Allison, correct?
Yes.
And I say this because these actions, the coding, the intubation, everything that's noted here, this is on the ER floor.
Correct.
This is not the ICU.
Correct.
And I'll just go down to here, since you indicated that you reviewed the records. I want to talk about, you said that after he coded, that your opinion was that he was stable. Do you remember that testimony?
What was stated to me by the emergency room doctor was that if he remained stable, we would go up to the ICU.
So I want to talk about that statement about being stable. Because let's go through it. We know from the fact that he's had seizures, that seizures can cause potential trauma to the brain, correct?
A seizure, yes. One caused brain bleeding.
Which takes me to the CT. As I heard your testimony on direct, you said, I don't know how they would know there was organ failure if they hadn't gotten the results of the CT. Do you remember that testimony on your direct?
Correct.
Okay, let's break that down. CT, based on your experience and knowledge, is an image of the brain.
Correct.
It is not a clinical picture of what is going on with the brain.
It's one of many.
And also one of many is the brain in our organ system, right?
Yes?
Because I want to talk about, go back to this note if I can.
Okay, we need to do a little sidebar here. Ladies and gentlemen, talk amongst yourself. David? That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I should have asked you. You reviewed the medical records with respect to Troy Allison and the July 2018 hospital visit, correct?
Correct.
You adopt those records as your own opinions and beliefs, or do not adopt the medical records as your own opinions and beliefs?
They're not my opinions and beliefs.
And so if a doctor's indicated one thing in the medical record you would disagree in places with doctors.
Repeat the question.
Sure. If doctors were to say certain things in medical records, you would disagree with some of the things that some of the doctors said in these medical records.
You asked me if it was my opinion, but I didn't write it, so it's not my opinion.
No, I said your opinions and your beliefs.
Right.
So what happened?
So I'm testifying as to what I witnessed.
Okay.
That's what my testimony is. So that's my understanding. But what someone writes in a medical chart is not my opinion. That would have been the opinion of Dr. Woodard.
So let's go back to Dr. Woodard, who was the doctor in the ER.
Correct.
He's the doctor on the first floor of that hospital that we just talked about, those code situations, correct?
Correct.
And isn't it true that when you've been asked about the doctor and the code situations, that you started talking to him about things you wish he would have done more of?
No, what?
That's my question.
I asked the doctor to do more things?
That's correct.
Who said that?
That's my question to you, ma'am. Did you ask the doctor to do more things in the ER?
I asked him what he had done up until that point.
And he gave you an explanation as to what he had done?
Yes.
And did you not find that explanation sufficient?
Yeah, I understood what he was telling me, and I accepted it as what was going on.
Because it was an emergent situation, right?
Correct.
And in fact, it was so emergent. You know, do you not, that the blood pressure was not just over 500, it was 800.
His blood sugar or his blood pressure?
His blood sugar was 899.
Correct.
A normal person's, from your experience, is 100.
Correct.
899 is not life sustainable. Correct?
That's not correct.
Well, then let's talk about it. And that's not correct based on your training in nursing school?
Right, I see patients all the time that have high blood sugar. That doesn't mean I'm seeing them dead when they have high blood sugar.
Well, high blood sugar, does it not, when you get to 899, can mean that your organs are shutting down?
It can cause issues, like with your kidneys, yes.
Like your kidneys to fail, right?
But just because they're failing doesn't mean they're dead.
You know, again, my response, my fault. Yes or no? Your kidneys are failing.
Yes.
Okay. So then let's talk about, let's put the 899 glucose level aside and talk about the pH of a 6.5, which you testified you knew was his pH level.
I testified that I asked what his pH was, but I did not state a number.
Okay. Well, the jury certainly has their own recollection. My recollection, what was his pH number as you recall it?
I didn't recall it.
Okay.
I didn't testify to it. I just asked, I stated that I asked what his pH was.
So let me look at my notes, because I took notes on that indicated that the 6.5 wasn't that high. Let's just say hypothetically that it was a 6.5. You would agree with me that a 6.8 is acidosis, not sustainable life, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, you're familiar with pH levels because you testified about them under direct.
I'm familiar, but I can't, how freely am I able to speak?
Okay, you answer the questions given. If you do not know the answer, you tell her you don't know the answer.
I'm aware
If you know the answer, then you give her the answer of what you're aware of.
Do you remember reading the pH on your discharge summary that you told us you reviewed?
Yes, but again, I didn't testify to the number.
Okay, so then going back, you know that his glucose was 899. You know, I guess if you're maintaining you didn't say a number, you certainly knew that his pH levels were deadly.
They were critical.
Then on top of that, we also had, I think his lactic was at a 25. Do you remember that?
I didn't ask the emergency department attending what his lactic acid was.
And so that's my question, let me restate it. Did you know that his lactic was at 25?
Not in the moment, no.
Do you know now?
I know now, I reviewed the chart.
And what's, if you know, a normal level?
I don't know.
So then, after the codes, it's true, is it not, that they're finally able to at least take Mr. Allison in for a CT scan because he's alive again,
He's
right? Okay.
stable, yes.
Yes. No, let's talk about this word stable that you keep using.
Yes,
Because we know that when he's wheeled in to get the CT, he's on a vent,
correct.
which means he's on life support.
But not actively unstable.
Not my question. Yes or no?
He's on life support, yes.
We know, because you reviewed it and also your independent recollection, that he's on vasopressors. Another life support measure. Yes or no?
Not at the time, I did not know he was on vasopressors.
Okay, so you knew that he was on the vent.
Yes,
You knew that he had a deadly pH. You knew that his blood sugar was 899, correct?
I never testified to the number of the pH. I testified to his blood sugar. So I was aware that his pH was acidotic, but I didn't testify to the number of it.
So we're going to get through this, but I'm going to try to shorten my questions.
I know, but
Okay, so then we can just do a yes or no, because my question was, as he's being wheeled in to get a CT, he's on a bed, you knew he had an 899 glucose, you knew that his pH was acidotic, is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. And you knew that he had a wound that has caused him significant issues for multiple years, correct?
Yes,
You also knew about the kidney failure.
no, I didn't ask that.
And it's those set of circumstances of when that human being is being wheeled in to get a CT scan, that visual, that you label as stable. Correct?
Yes,
Then after the CT is when he's taken to the ICU.
correct,
And the ICU is on a different floor than the ER, correct?
correct,
And it's when you get to the ICU that you testified for the first time you see Dr. Husel.
correct. With the patient, which would be Troy.
Right. He's in the room, and Troy's in the room too,
Yeah,
correct?
correct,
And Troy's hooked up on the ventilator, right?
correct.
And hooked up to the machines, there's noises, et cetera, because it's an ICU. Would you agree with me on that?
Yes.
Do you remember the room he was in?
The number, no, but I remember the room.
Okay. And so it's just Dr. Husel in the room.
Correct.
And when you come in, how close is that room, since you don't remember the number, how close is that room to the nursing station?
It's directly across from it.
Right there. Right?
Correct.
And I know you testified to a number of details, but I don't remember you testifying to the name of the nurse that tended to your stepfather.
I didn't know his name.
But you know it was a man?
Yes.
Isn't it true that there was more than one nurse?
Not to my knowledge, I only saw that, and that's what I testified to.
You only saw that?
Him, just the singular male nurse.
But you never asked his name?
No.
Assuming if you had thought, I mean, you seem to be a strong-willed individual. Assuming if you had thought there was a problem, you would have learned that nurse's name.
I didn't know there was a problem.
So there's a nurse and there's Dr. Husel. And then I remember your testimony that Dr. Husel started speaking to you, and then you asked him a question, and he didn't answer it. He was just then directed his comments to your mother.
Correct.
Just big picture here. Your mother was the spouse of your stepfather, correct?
Correct.
And in terms of who was the durable power of attorney, or the next of kin who could make decisions, it was your mother.
Correct.
Not you.
Correct.
This is probably a good place to break because we've got to do the video thing. Up to the time. It'll take us a couple minutes. You guys just want to hang tight while we do it. I'll take her off the stand and we'll get it set up. Do we have Paul?
Was it set for 1?
It was set for 1, but we were going to do it at 1:15. You can go back out in the hallway. Remember my earlier admonition to you? We'll see you back shortly.
Let me get it.
Okay.
Just drop him and see him. He's right here.
Miracles of miracles. It's Paul. You gotta get up here and move me for a second? Ms. Meg, call your witness, please.
The state calls Earl Huron.
Sir, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay? I need you to state your name for the record and spell it for my court reporter, please.
Yeah, my name is Earl Joseph Huron II, E-A-R-L, Joseph, J-O-S-E-P-H, Huron, H-U-R-O-N II.
Ms. Mick,
Mr. Huron, where did you grow up?
I grew up mostly in Columbus, Ohio.
And where do you currently live now?
I am currently in Illinois.
Where did you attend school for college?
University of Toledo for both my master's and my bachelor's.
And what were those degrees in?
The bachelor's was Bachelor's of Science in Interdisciplinary Studies, and master's was in nursing.
When did you receive those degrees?
2009 was when I got the bachelor's, and the master's was 2014, I believe.
What was your first job after nursing school?
It was a nurse residency program at Vanderbilt University, or Vanderbilt Medical Center.
And what unit did you work in?
I worked in the PACU, which is post-op recovery.
Can you describe a little bit about what that work in that unit would entail?
A patient would come out after surgery, and I would make sure their pain's under control, manage airways if necessary, nausea, vomiting, and then work on getting them to their next location, whether that be home or whatever unit they're going to.
And when you talk about surgeries, are these like minor outpatient surgeries, major surgeries, everything?
I did everything from simple outpatient to kidney transplants when I was there.
And how long did you work in that role?
I was there for just over a year.
In that role, did you have the occasion to use fentanyl?
Yeah, essentially every patient.
And what were typical doses that you were giving in the PACU of fentanyl?
Objection.
The PACU generally...
objection, stop. Let's lay a foundation for it.
When you were working in the PACU, would the doctors order fentanyl for postoperative care?
For postoperative pain relief, yes.
Were you the individual that administered that medication?
Yes.
Was there a typical or average dose or dosing pattern?
Objection.
I'll permit it. This is in
The
your
typical
experience.
dose was anywhere from, in my experience in the recovery room, the typical dose was 25 to 50 micrograms every 5 minutes, generally up to 250 micrograms. That was the typical order set.
Judge, we're going to object. This is post-operative care. This case is about palliative withdrawals. There's no.
I understand that, but he's talking about his capacity in dealing with it. I'll permit it.
Sorry, did you say the largest dose was 250 micrograms?
That was the maximum amount total for the postoperative care that we would give. Oh, typically, we would give medication every 5 to 10 minutes as needed for pain, and it was 25 to 50 micrograms every 5 minutes up to the max dose of 250 through the course of the recovery room stay. If that makes sense, I hope.
Yes. I guess when you're mentioning that 250, are you saying that that would be divided up or that would be given at one time?
Leading.
It's clarification. I'll permit it. Do you understand
So
that?
that was the, yes, I do. So let's say I was giving 50 micrograms of fentanyl, it would be 5 doses of 50 over time for a maximum of 250, not at a time, but total 250 micrograms.
And how long were you at,
That,
yeah, thank you. How long were you at Vanderbilt working in that role?
just over a year.
And after you left, what did you do next?
I started traveling as a recovery room nurse.
When you were traveling, was that also, when you say recovery room, is that the same as the PACU?
Yes,
And how many different
just to keep
hospitals?
the acronyms down.
Sorry. How many different hospitals did you travel to as a traveling nurse?
It was roughly 5 to 10 different hospitals.
Was your experience with fentanyl, well, did you have experience with fentanyl in those hospitals as well?
Yes, every hospital used fentanyl for post-op pain.
And was your administration of that similar to what you just testified to about Vanderbilt?
Objection. Relevant.
Yes.
Okay, overruled.
At what time did you begin working at Mount Carmel West?
That was 07 of 2018, I believe. Sorry. Yeah, 7 of 2018.
And what unit did you start working in?
I was in the ICU.
Was this your first ICU assignment as a nurse?
Correct.
Did you have an orientation when you started?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the orientation was, started off shadowing a seasoned ICU nurse. Then we slowly were given more and more responsibilities until eventually we started managing our own patients. Once we were comfortable and the nurse that were precepting us was comfortable.
And how long is the orientation?
It varied wildly from person to person. Mine was roughly 3 months before I was off orientation, I believe.
Did your orientation get extended beyond the time you were expecting?
Yes, it was extended for a couple extra weeks.
And do you know why?
I don't remember all the reasons, but one of the reasons definitely stated was that I was not assisting, or I was not helping other people enough. Essentially, I was concentrating on my charting more than helping them with other people.
When you started working on your own, what shift were you working?
I was on night shift.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Oh, I was on night shift.
Thank you. What doctors did you work with on night shift?
Dr. Haggers and Dr. Husel.
Could you describe your observation of the culture on the unit at night?
Objection.
Okay, let's rephrase.
Could you observe your experience, or could you describe your experience on the night shift of the ICU?
Objection. Can we get more time frame, or is he giving an opinion now?
Okay, well, he's describing his experience. Let's put a time frame on it.
When did you begin working on the night shift in the ICU?
I was on night shift essentially from the beginning. I might have worked 1 week on day shift.
Can you give us a month and year estimate?
It was still in July 2018.
And when did you stop working at Mount Carmel on the night shift ICU?
That was in January, I believe it was, of 2019.
So during that time frame that you were there, what was your observation of the unit and the culture on the unit?
Objection.
What would, sorry,
Okay,
not,
you got a compound going
Yeah.
there. Let's
Yeah.
ask the question correctly.
what was your observation of the night shift ICU during the time that you were there?
Objection. It's a fact witness.
I understand that. He can give his observations. It's permissible.
Can I get an answer?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it was a pretty close-knit unit. We seemed to work well together. Any issues seemed to have a lot of good teamwork, and I was confident in the doctors at the time with their decisions.
Could you just,
I
sorry, continue.
go ahead. No, I don't have much more to add. I wasn't there long enough to get a very good gauge on the culture, quite frankly.
When you were working there, did you get a gauge on, did you observe any dynamics between Dr. Husel and the other nurses?
Objection.
Well, it's a yes/no question there. Did you observe anything, the dynamics between him and other nurses?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you describe that a little bit?
Let's lay a little bit more foundation.
What type of observations, I'll scrap that. Did the nurses on the unit hold Dr. Husel in high regard?
You're asking,
Not going to answer that one.
Did you, from your observation, did the nurses on the unit hold Dr. Husel in high regard?
Yes, they did.
I would like to take you to October 24th of 2018. Were you working that night?
Yes.
Are you familiar with a patient named James Timmons?
I did not know the patient's name at the time, but they were a patient in the ICU that night, yes.
Sorry. Was Mr. Timmons your patient that night?
No.
Do you know whose patient he was?
No, he was Jake Deemer's plus a preceptee. I do not know who the preceptee was. Don't remember.
Did there come to be an occasion that night when you were helping in Mr. Timmons' care?
My role that night was I assisted Jacob Deemer in pulling medications from Pyxis for him.
And do you recall how many times you pulled medication from the Pyxis for Mr. Timmons?
I believe there were at least 3 or 4 based off what DeMar said.
Were there,
no. No, overruled.
Mr. Huron, have you been provided with a copy of the Pyxis log for Mr. Timmons?
Truncated copy of it, yeah, and I have a longer form one in one of my documents here.
And just for the record, that is State's Exhibit 24K. At some point during that night, were you, or how many times that night were you getting medication out of the Pyxis with regard to Mr. Timmons' palliative extubation?
For the palliative extubation process, it looks like 4 medications on 2 occasions.
Let's start with the first occasion. What medications did you pull on the first occasion?
First one was 1,000 micrograms of fentanyl and 10 milligrams of Versed.
And why were you pulling those medications from the Pyxis for Mr. Timmons?
Well, I was asked by Jacob Deemer to help him out and pull those medications from the Pyxis from work with Dr. Husel, verified the numbers with Jacob Deemer, and I believe I even asked Dr. Husel to make sure that that was correct, and then I went and pulled the meds.
And why were you asking multiple people if that was correct?
Because they were very high doses.
When you pulled those medications from the Pyxis, was it via override?
Yes, it was.
And why were they pulled on override?
Because the order was not on the computer yet. And I was told that it was an emergent situation.
After you pulled those medications, what did you do with them?
I gave them to Jacob Deemer and then resumed care of my patients. Actually, at the time, I resumed care of my patients right away.
And then you referenced a second time that you pulled medication for the palliative extubation? What medication did you pull?
One more time?
Sorry, the second time that you pulled medication from the Pyxis for the palliative extubation, what medication did you pull?
Looks like 10 milligrams of Dilaudid and 10 milligrams of Versed.
And why were you pulling those medications?
Because I received the order from Dr. Husel.
Did you verify those medications with Dr. Husel?
He was the one that gave me the order and I verified the doses before pulling them, yes.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
She's recording what you're saying. Could you repeat your answer, please?
Oh, I apologize. I verified the numbers and the doses with Dr. Husel, and he was the one that gave me the order. So that's the verification that I did. All I have is the MAR. I don't know the Pyxis time.
Can you screen share them? We're going to screen share with you so you can see the Pyxis.
All right, 1 second. Okay.
All right. Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right. And again, for the record, this is State's Exhibit 24K. All right.
It looks like 2:54 in the morning.
And then is that right above it, the 252, is that the other medication that you just referenced?
Yes, for the second time pulling, correct? From the Pyxis, excuse me.
And a quick clarification, when we're looking at the first time you pulled the medication, where it says fentanyl 800 and then fentanyl 200, do you know why those are two separate entries?
I believe that is because it either came from it was a different Pyxis, MCU2 versus MCU1. Looks like it was the other Pyxis on there.
So are you aware of why you got medication, the fentanyl, from two different Pyxis machines?
Objection asked and answered.
It has been. He said it was 2 different machines.
I was asking why he got it from two different machines.
Yes.
Okay. I'll permit it.
Are you aware of why you were?
Presumably because the machine ran out of stock of the full amount
Okay.
order.
You don't know for sure is what you're telling us?
I do not remember. That would be the only reason for it, but I cannot tell you 100% certainty. That's why.
I'm not striking. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Right. after you pulled the second group of medications, what did you do with those?
I gave them to Jacob Deamer again.
And then what did you do after that?
I believe I was at the nurse's station.
And were you at the nurse's station with anyone?
I know Dr. Husel was there. I don't remember who else.
And without telling me what anyone said, what were you and Dr. Husel doing at the nurse's station?
Watching the patient on the monitor.
All right. At any point through the course of the night while you were helping with Mr. Timmons, do you recall anyone running out of Mr. Timmons' room and asking for help?
The only person that asked me for help personally was either Jacob or his preceptee, excuse me.
Sorry.
From the room. I don't remember anything else.
Yeah. Let me rephrase it. Do you recall any of Mr. Timmons' family members running out and asking the medical team for help? And just to wrap up, do you still work, or you do not work at Mount Carmel anymore, correct?
No, I stopped working for them in January of 2019.
And why did you stop working there?
Because they were reporting me to the Board of Nursing, and I did not feel like working in a hostile work environment.
And so you were reported to the Board of Nursing?
Okay, counsel, move
Yes, I
on.
was.
Move on.
All right. Can I ask why?
No.
Okay. Oh, I can ask that. Mr. Huron, are you currently employed?
Not currently.
And are you looking for a job?
Outside of nursing, yes.
No further questions.
Cross? Will you take down the screen so we can see his face better?
Yeah. Great. Can you take that screen
Please, the court. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, sir. Can you see me or hear me?
I can hear you just fine, thank you.
Okay. You testified on direct that you didn't feel like working in that environment for that hospital. Words to that effect. Do you recall that just now?
Yes.
Okay. When you had your interview with HR, did you tell them that you felt the leaders were taking small brush fires and putting them out with napalm? Does that sound like something you would say?
I don't remember saying that.
Okay. Do you recall telling them that it was a big dose but not inappropriate?
I remember saying it was a good dose. I do not remember commenting on the appropriateness of it, quite frankly.
Okay. Did you tell them that you did research and that it was appropriate?
There were two sources of information for what would be determined according to what Mount Carmel gave us as a lethal dose of
Let me
those
ask,
medications.
my question was, did you tell them that?
Yes.
Okay. So after telling them that you did your own research and it was appropriate, did you also tell them that you had given 700 micrograms in your, how do you pronounce it, PACU experience? PAC?
Not in one dose.
I'm sorry?
The most I've ever given in one single dose in the PACU was 100 micrograms.
Hold on just a second. I need you to answer just my question, okay? My question was, did you tell them that you had given 700 micrograms in your PACU experience?
Are you asking about one dose or through the course of the person's stay in
No,
PACU?
he's asking simply, did you tell them that you gave a 700 microgram dose?
I've never given a 700 microgram dose of fentanyl. So, no, I wouldn't have told them that.
And you don't recall telling them that that you thought that the order was appropriate?
He's asked and answered that.
Oh, well. Do you have, were you given a copy of your interview with the HR department?
Not at the time. I believe that one was provided to me when I did my initial interview with the board, the Ohio Board of Nursing, but I do not have a copy of that.
Okay. Have you kept it?
I'm sure I have it somewhere, but this has been an ongoing 3-year process, and it's not, I don't know where it is.
I see that you have some papers in front of you, because I've noticed you looking down a few times. What do you have in front of you?
In front of me, I have the Ohio Board of Nursing judgment, which is a 77-page document that includes some quotes, but not everything verbatim.
Can you look at page 26 of your board testimony and see if you see that indication where you gave 700 micrograms? Actually,
You want to strike the question, ask a new one?
while he's pulling up page 26, let me know when you're ready.
I'm looking at page 26 of 71, correct? I'm making sure I'm looking at the right document.
Page 26, lines 4 through 11.
Why are these not there too? Do you have any way of putting it up there? Apparently these pages are not lining up.
He can't quite put it up there
Yeah, I
yet.
can't. Judge, just, if I can have a moment, I
Yeah.
want to just double check.
I can tell you with 100% certainty that I've never given a single dose of 700.
Just relax, sir. Okay? I'm
Sorry.
gonna get to you here.
I have no further questions, Judge.
Okay? Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Huron, do you have that transcript with you for the State Board of Nursing?
I have actually the copy that Missouri sent me, which is supposed to be with, I have a copy of it, yes, but apparently the pages do not line up.
And can you elaborate on that 700 microgram dose that you were talking about? Was that given at once?
No, it was not given.
How was that given?
I don't remember the exact details, but typically.
Okay, stop. Stop. You don't remember the
Yes.
details? Next.
Okay. I do remember.
Hold on, relax.
Do you recall telling the State Board of Nursing in your testimony that this dose was accepted?
Objection.
Sustained.
Maybe approach.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. Make yourself busy.
I good.
Objection sustained. Next question.
Mr. Huron, you testified that you have never given a 700 microgram dose of fentanyl. Is that correct?
Objection, this has been asked and answered.
I'll permit it.
I need clarification on if you're referring to at one time or over the course of the PACU stay.
Sorry, that's my fault. 700 microgram bolus of IV fentanyl one time.
No, I've never given 700.
What is the largest dose you've ever given in that?
Objection.
You're getting outside. Sustained.
All right. No further questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony, sir. We're going to shut you off.
All right.
Okay. Do you guys want a quick 10 minutes, or do you want me to bring the young lady back and we'll continue on? Continue on? Nobody needs to go? No midstream? Okay. Let's bring her back in. Come here, ma'am. You're still under oath. Go ahead and get yourself comfortable. You ready? Ms. Menashe.
Just finding a document, Your Honor, one moment. One moment. Yeah, let me just look at the table. There's papers. One moment, Your Honor. I need this document. One of these days, documents will be like, find your phone. Where are you at? One moment, it's being reprinted. Oh, doesn't need to be. Boom.
Are you ready now?
I am, Your Honor.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Tell us, Christine Allison, that name belongs to who?
That's my mother.
And you are aware, are you not, that in January of 2019, your mother filed a civil lawsuit against Mount Carmel?
My mother did, yes.
Your mother did, correct? And she named Dr. Husel and John Doe pharmacist and John Doe nurse, correct?
I didn't know who was listed.
But you're here today with an attorney from the law office that represents her in the civil suit. Are you
I'm not here with him.
Sustained. Let's go silent.
I didn't know the names that were listed. Like, I didn't know there was John Doe's listed.
Right, and you know then, do you not, that this litigation is still pending?
It is, yes.
And you know then, based on your common sense and experience that you've testified to, that a conviction in this case would help your mom's civil suit.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't know that.
So let's go back to when you were in the ICU in July of 2018. There's been a lot of talk about you and your mother, but your husband at the time was there as well, correct?
My ex-husband, yes.
So he had time to get there, to get to the ICU that night.
We drove together.
And any other family members that were there?
No,
Because it was that close-knit family, is that true?
yes.
Do you have any other siblings?
I have a brother.
And where does your brother live?
Right now,
At the time, in 2018.
he lived in Gehanna.
And the chaplain was there?
Correct.
Same chaplain from the ER followed you and your mother and your husband at the time up to the ICU, correct?
Correct.
So that was continuity of care that went up with you to the ICU.
She followed us up to the ICU.
And didn't you remember her name?
Nope.
Don't remember her name.
No.
And then this conversation that you had with Dr. Husel, I remember your testimony about it on direct. You remember being interviewed by the Columbus Police Department, do you not?
By detectives, yes.
Yeah, of the Columbus Police Department.
Yes.
And that interview was in February of 2019, correct?
I'm not sure of the date, but sure, yes.
Tell me something. How many times in your life have you been interviewed by police?
I think like I was a juvenile. I got interviewed a few times.
So, and as an adult being interviewed by police, I assume that's a date that would stick out in your mind?
No.
Okay. Because, tell me, would you agree with me that your memory, just as a human, doesn't get better with time, does it?
No.
So, at some point in 2019, you had an interview with the Columbus Police Department, but you don't remember when, correct?
Correct.
And fair to say that this interview is after, if you know, the filing of your mother's lawsuit.
No, I didn't know that.
This is, though, after, is it not, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, on and on. It's at least 6 months after the passing of Troy Allison, correct?
Correct.
First time that you're interviewed. Is that right?
Correct.
6+ months after the situation.
Correct.
Right? Want to talk about, obviously you were at Mount Carmel on the 2018. Have you ever had any other occasion in your life to go to Mount Carmel West?
Yes.
So you were familiar with the organization of Mount Carmel West, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to talk about the passing of Mr. Allison was in July of 2018. Let's talk about August of 2018. Fair to say you did not call the compliance line at Mount Carmel West and make any complaint with respect to the situation with Mr. Allison, correct?
I did not.
No. You also did not make such a call to anyone at Mount Carmel or the compliance hotline in August of 2018, correct?
Correct.
Or September?
Or following.
Or October,
Or
correct?
following. Correct.
Or November, correct?
Correct.
Or December, correct?
Correct.
Or into 2019, correct?
Correct.
Same thing. I'm assuming you have a cell phone or a landline?
Cell phone.
Okay. At no point in September of 2019, within the first 30 days, did you call 911? Correct? Reporting something nefarious that happened with your loved one, correct?
No, I did not call 911.
Nor did you do that in September, October, November, on and on and on, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Because when you were in the ICU with your mother and your then husband, a decision was made by your mother, was it not?
It was not.
Okay. So it's your testimony that someone at the hospital made a decision to palliatively extubate Troy Allison without your mother as the power of attorney or next of kin's permission.
Correct.
That's your testimony today.
She never explicitly said or agreed to a palliative extubation.
You didn't immediately call 911? Someone just killed my loved one? My mom never said do that?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Let me rephrase. No, you didn't call 911?
You
Objection.
asked it already, if she ever called 911.
You didn't alert.
I didn't call anybody.
You didn't call anyone. And tell me, it has been evident today from your testimony that you are not a shy woman. Would you describe yourself as shy?
I'm not here to describe myself.
That's my question. Would you
Well,
describe yourself as shy?
Are you a shy person?
I am. I'm an introvert. My heart rate's like 188 right now.
Okay. But you know what I think is, would you agree with me that you certainly know how to express yourself? Is that a fair statement?
Sure.
Okay. And you've done that today, have you not? When I've been asked a question, you answer it in your own capacity. Is that not correct?
Correct.
Yet you were telling this jury that someone in that hospital, Mount Carmel West, on July of 2018, took the life of Troy Allison without your mother's permission?